So if I'm coming here with a lie, that will hurt my brand. So I have nothing to gain since I'm not monetizing this. I'm not writing a book, but I can tell you right now that I wouldn't be telling this to you if it wasn't real. So let me just tell you what happened. Hi, everybody. I am Dan Castle. I'm the founder and inventor of CastleFlexx. And this is a company that I started in November of 2021. And it is everything to me. And I would not be here right now talking about what I'm about to talk about if it wasn't true, because my brand is very much based on trust. Our device, it helps people out of chronic pain. So if you have herniated disc or sciatica or back pain, any kind, ACL, hip, plantar fasciitis is really, one of the many things that we're known for. We have a less than 1% return rate. Anyone can return it, no questions asked, within 30 days. Like, it's a very respectable, well-run company. It's expensive and it's luxury because there's so many other cheap things out there, and we didn't want to be in that cheap, market. And so this company was something that I believed in. My wife believed in it. Our children believed in it. And I think belief is going to be a big factor of what we're going to talk about today, because I'm going to share my UFO story. And I want to say beyond UFO, that technically just means you can't identify something that's flying. I could identify what was flying in my first experience 100%. So it was not unidentified to me. It's something I experienced and other people did as well. And I've been telling this story since 1997 when it first happened. And I'm going to tell you the story today. And I'm also going to have my editors look at all the videos and B-roll that they put in while I'm speaking to make sure that it's accurate to what I saw. Because I hate when I'm watching UFO documentaries or Bigfoot documentaries, and I don't know whether or not the visuals that they're showing are actually what the witness saw. So I'm only going to put out there what is 100% accurate and true with my team. The second experience that I recently had, which I do have video of, just needs to be enhanced just so that you could see it a little bit better, because it's at night. So that's really it. The first one is they're going to create visuals that are very specific to what I saw. Or if they can't do it, then I'm just going to tell them not to do it at all. And you'll just have to hear what I say and visualize it yourself. Let's get started. In 1996, I started freshman year at Michigan. I decided not to do the fraternities. I decided not to go through with the pledging. And then sophomore year in 1997, when I felt like I was more comfortable there and understood how important the fraternity sorority life was to that type of a school, I decided that I was going to pledge. And so 10 of us, about half of us were athletes at University of Michigan, and the other half were either in the business school or LS&A. And we really were a tight-knit group, and we felt like none of us really wanted to do the fraternity thing, but at least if we did it, we would do it together, and that would make it fun. And I decided that if we were going to do pledging, that I didn't want to do anything drinking related. That was just something that I had heard some bad stories, and I didn't want, to go out like that. So I decided to tell them that I'll pledge, but I'm not going to be drinking any alcohol. And the deal was, that's fine. You can't have any alcohol at our parties, meaning for social stuff. You can't have your cake and eat it too. And I said, that's fine. So I decided to go through sophomore year alcohol free. One day at 4 a.m., they were hazing us and they lined us all up in the basement. And they said, you guys all have to go drive to Penn State and take a picture in front of the stadium. Now, we didn't have, Waze or anything like that, Google Maps. I didn't know how long that was going to take. And I had a Jeep, and my best friend also wasn't drinking, and he had his car. And so we said, you know what? We're both completely sober. We'll be the drivers. And we got in the car not knowing how miserable this road trip was going to be. You don't realize how far Michigan Stadium is from Penn State. You think they're because they're rivals, that they're next door to each other. But this was hours and hours and hours of driving. I had 4 people in my car. He had 4 people in his car. So that's the 10, 4 plus 1 for each car. And I was a little bit of a slower driver because I had gotten into an accident when I was a senior in high school. And so I just decided I'm not going to get into another accident, and I'm not going to try to keep up with my best friend, who was a very fast driver. We're in the car now for 3 hours. This is around 10 a.m. So maybe we're in the car for a little bit longer, and it's daylight, and we're on a highway, and we're on an interstate going from Michigan to Penn State. I don't remember the highway that it was, maybe I-95. And we're driving, and it's around 10 a.m., 10:30 a.m., and everyone in my car is sleeping. And I see something as I'm driving in the corner of my eye, sort of like top left. And it's silver. And it's big, but it's also moving at a pace that didn't feel very natural to me, because it didn't seem to be affected by wind. It just was so still as it was moving. So just imagine, like, even when you see a plane, you can sort of see sometimes, the lights change, especially at night, or during the day, you might see a little reflection as it starts to move, its angles. This was just like coming down at an angle towards me, and it just started to come towards the car. And I would say it would probably be just under the clouds. It would be like, but there were no clouds. So I can't give you an exact distance, but it would be like if you look up and you see the clouds, it would be under the clouds. That would be the distance that this was. And it still was moving closer, and then it stopped. And that's when I sort of got that jolt in my heart, where I said, wait, you can't stop. That's not how this is supposed to work. Because I at that time, I didn't know what it was, but it just didn't feel real to me. And I decided to open my window, and, there's no traffic or anything like that. It's one of those long, straight highways. It's completely clear. There's no trees blocking my view or anything like that. We're in the middle of farmland, probably. And I just look out the window and I look up just to make sure that I'm not seeing something that was maybe on the glass or whatever. And I look up, and it's as clear as you can see. It's like right there in front of you, as clear as you see me. And it wasn't moving. And I got this feeling, and I remember this to the second. I got this feeling where I looked at it and I went, like, are you looking at me? Like the way that somebody walks in the room and you think they're looking at you, but they're looking at the person behind you, that kind of thing. And I looked, and I see everyone is passed out in the car. Of course, they were all drunk the night before, and they're getting their sleep while I'm driving them to the next activity. And I just remember feeling like, oh, is this something that you need? Like, it felt like it was looking at me. And I remember looking over my shoulder, not to see if they were awake. That's not why I looked over. I looked over because I just wanted to see if maybe there was something behind me. That's the feeling that I got. But what was the strangest of all of this was not that it was so still. What was weird was there was nothing happening around it, meaning there was no smoke, there was no sound, and so it just didn't feel real. Here's what really freaked me out. This ship was so big, making no sounds at all. And the fact that it wasn't making a sound when I rolled my window down, that was what shook me to my core. Because you don't believe it until you see it firsthand, how big these ships can be. And the fact that they don't move at all and show no signs of propulsion, but don't make any sound at all. I don't know how to to emphasize this. It's not possible that we would ever create something that's that big. It was probably the size of a baseball stadium. Okay. Let's say like Citi Field, about that size. And it was silver, and it had no markings, no creases. It was literally what you would typically see as a UFO when you read about it in a book, or somebody explains, I saw a UFO. That's what it looked like. Okay. I know there's a lot of new shapes out there, but this was like the classic, beautiful silver saucer. I'm an inventor, right? I'm the owner of CastleFlexx. I love inventing beautiful devices and beautiful objects. That's my passion. So I look at something like that, and I've always wanted to be an inventor, and I say, wow, that's just gorgeous. Like, who made that? And so for me, I look at it really in two ways. Holy shit, what the hell is happening? And also, wow, how beautiful is that? This is like literally a work of art. And that to me was really interesting. But then something happened while it was, let's say I'm driving, let's say it's now been, I want to say 45 seconds, okay, that I'm looking at this thing. Now something happens that I've watched a lot of UFO documentaries. I don't want to say I've watched every single one, but there's very few that I will not watch because I love hearing other people's stories. To me, it's so fun. And it sort of takes my mind off of work, which could be very stressful when you're helping people out of serious chronic pain of all ages, from 14 to 90 with MS and Parkinson's. And, there's just so many issues that I'm dealing with on an everyday basis that I love going into my man cave and just watching YouTube and checking out like the latest and greatest stories. I like the real ones. I like it when people have something on the line, whether they're ex-government officials or myself, like they own a brand, and brands' success are based today on trust. So if I'm coming here with a lie, that will hurt my brand. So I have nothing to gain since I'm not monetizing this. I'm not writing a book, but I can tell you right now that I wouldn't be telling this to you if it wasn't real. So let me just tell you what happened. So this saucer was sitting there. And once I realized that no one was up, and I can care less if they saw this or not, that's not at all what was going through my mind. Look what I'm seeing. I could care less. My mind was too busy processing what I was seeing for me to start thinking about anything else. And by the way, there's a lot of reasons why people don't get that video, right? Because the first time it's very unlikely they're going to get that video. That's impressive if they do. Because if you really are seeing something like this, your mind should not be thinking A, B, C, D, E. You're just stuck on A. What the heck is this? And how do I wrap my brain around this? This goes against everything I've been taught. Okay, so this is what happened. And I've watched all the videos and all the podcasts that I can on this subject. I'm about to tell you something that I've never heard anyone say. And I'm still feeling like one of the reasons I watch a lot of those shows is because I'm hoping that somebody had this exact same experience as me. And here's what it was. While it was sitting there, all of a sudden, it started to fill up with light. So the lights didn't turn on. It wasn't like that. It was like from within, and it just was this beautiful white glow that's encompassed the entire craft. So it went from silver to bright white. And once it reached the bright white, so maybe this took like 2 seconds or 3 seconds for it to go from silver to this bright white. Once it hit that bright white, there was like a 1 second of, I took a 1 second breath, and it went boom, like that. And it went in a diagonal direction, and it left a trail of light, not because it left anything, just because the same way if I took light and I went like this, you would see the trail of that light. It was so fast that I got that other jolt, that same jolt when there was no sound, that other jolt of, holy shit jolt, where you realize, okay, this really cannot be man-made. This is 1997. I'm sure that they have had great technology, but what human could live while they're going that fast from 0 to, 30,000 miles an hour? Your brain would come out of your head. So that was my other moment of, okay, this is different. And the whole changing color ordeal, I still have not seen any documentary or anyone who's had that happen. And if you have had that happen, please share it in the comments. Or if you know of a documentary or an interview or anywhere where someone explains that, I would just love to see if it's a similar craft to what I saw, what they're describing, because I still have not heard anything about that specific morphing of color like that. I've heard a lot of bright lights, a lot of turns from this color, but never like filling up with this white light and then sort of illuminating and then boom, going so quick. I've just never heard of that. Almost like it was building up energy is what it looked like and felt like to me. One thing to note, 30 minutes later, and this is interesting, and this is something I have seen with UFO stories, so this part is not going to surprise a lot of people that have had experiences. One thing I did notice, so 30 minutes later, we stopped at Dunkin' Donuts because, of course, that's what like 10 guys, 8 of them being hungover, want. They want their coffee and their fried donuts. So we met at Dunkin' Donuts. I don't remember if we had texted. If I probably had texted David, my best friend, who was driving the car in front of us. He had the 4 guys, I had my 4 guys, and we got to Dunkin' Donuts and we ordered and we were sitting down. I had totally forgotten about what I had seen. So that's really strange to me that I didn't bust out of the car and run over to David. And he was there ahead of me because he was a mile or two ahead of me. So we weren't like one car in front of the other. He was a really fast driver. So it probably took me a few minutes to catch up to him. We probably had texted each other. We had those like cheap Motorola flip phones. That's what you had in the 97, 96. So we get there, we're sitting down, we're eating the donuts, having our coffee. And then I go, oh, wait, David, like, did you see anything while we were driving? Because I didn't want to say what it was, because these are the types of guys, a few of them were on the baseball team and the soccer team for Michigan. These were big guys that would, we would fight a lot, both physically and messing with each other. And I didn't want to become a target that morning. So I didn't want to say anything. And I just said, David, do you see anything? And David was like, yes, I did. What did you see? And I said, well, what did you see? And he's the math guy. So he was like he graduated number 2 in our business school. He's very left-brained. And so I didn't want to give him any suggestions because he's the type of person that doesn't believe anything unless it's a number and a formula. So I love David and he set me up with my wife. So I owe him for life, but he's like the biggest math nerd ever and brilliant. But this is not his world. So I needed to hear him say it. And he explained what I had seen. And we're like, oh my God. And all the guys were like, oh man, I wish I was up. And I was like, no, you didn't. You love being drunk and hungover in the back of my truck. And that was when I knew that what I had seen actually happened. Because it was so surreal when it happened and I didn't have any record of it. Like I don't even think the Motorola flip phone had a camera. If it did, maybe it was a picture, not a video. I have no idea. It's, what 1997 Motorola was. But I'm telling you now, when he said the same story, especially who he is as a person and the way he thinks, that's when I knew it was real. And so I've been telling the same story forever. That was 1997. Today it's May of 2025. A lot has been going on in the world. Maybe I'll share my thoughts on what is happening in New Jersey and in other places of the world. But for this moment, I just want to talk about what happened this week to me. And what my family experienced and my friends. So now remember, I'm an experiencer at this point. I've had the experience, and in my mind, I will never have another experience without catching it on camera. So even when I have a German Shepherd, he's big, he's 100 pounds, and he scares everybody in the area. So out of respect for them, I try to walk him at really late hours. So sometimes 10 p.m., sometimes 1 a.m., sometimes 4 a.m. I'm working 20 hours a day, so it's no big deal. He's always by my side. And literally, I just went for a walk around the cul-de-sac near my house, and it was only 10 o'clock, so it was considered an early walk for us. Usually we're out a lot later. And I decided to just look up, and it was a beautiful night where there was no clouds. It was completely clear. I could see every star. And it was beautiful. And I just looked up for a minute. And while I looked up, I started seeing the stars moving. And I'm not even kidding. It didn't even take me a second. I pulled my phone out and I said, I'll look at it, but I'll look at it with my phone. And I just tried to keep it really steady. And after about a few minutes of watching these lights changing directions, they were a different distance than stars. So they were a lot lower than the stars, but they were above where the planes usually fly over in our area here in Atlanta. So we're in Atlanta, Georgia, and in Sandy Springs, actually. And so I'm looking at them and they're zigzagging and they're stopping and they're turning into like a beautiful bright flash and then turns off. And then maybe like 20 seconds later, it'll flash again. It almost felt to me like they were positioning themselves. There seemed to be like they would fly in between two stars at the same distance and stop there. And then something would happen and then another one would come the other way and stop there. And then that one would then leave. And then sometimes they would just all be going in the same direction at the same time. Stay in a formation.
But then there's like some that are crisscrossing and moving. That's really scary. I don't find it scary.
I don't find it scary. I have as much as I can on camera. I haven't looked at all the videos. I did, I think, 3 or 4 videos, and I just sent it to my editing team for CastleFlexx. I said, guys, this is a unique situation. I'm like, you guys are the best editors in the game. I don't want you to do any editing. I just want you to do enhancing. Just enhance everything that my phone is seeing, because it's dark and you never know, what it's going to look like on your phone. I hope you enjoyed this story. I hope you appreciate that I'm telling you this. I don't know if I'm going to be ridiculed for it. I think people are growing up, and I think people are getting to a point where so many conspiracy theories are becoming true. And not all, but there are a lot that are. And I do think that people are waking up. And I think what's going on in New Jersey right now and in other places around the world, especially Australia, there's something happening. And I'm glad that other people are getting similar experiences to what I had. And hopefully you don't ridicule people when they share their stories, because you might not see it as a big deal, but they will 100% keep it in the back of their mind every single time they say something to you. Believe what you hear if you love and respect someone, and there's no incentive to make this up, right? What's the upside here for anyone? Most of it's downside. So I think be understanding, believe in things, whether it's you're building a company that no one says will ever be possible to build, or you see something and you just don't know how to make light of it based on your reality, because your reality tells you that this isn't real based on what you've learned, based on your past experiences. So just be open-minded, because there are things that are happening out there that we don't understand. And it's an amazing, exciting world. And stay positive and stay open-minded. That's my advice to everybody. And I think if you can be positive and open-minded, I do think you will start to have experiences yourself.